Welcome to the third and final 150 Forward Progress Update. Today, we're focusing on research excellence, the research excellence pillar. I want to tell you a little bit about the structure of today's event and who we've got in front of us. I think probably need no introductions, but we're going to begin today with updates from each of our three panelists, and I believe the closing message will be Margaret and the Chancellor. In between, I have a few questions that have been submitted by campus that I'll ask the panelists at the end of their updates. And of course, you all know Margaret Sova McCabe, the Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation, Ed Pohl, Dean of Graduate School and International Education, and Terry Martin, our Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. And kicking us off today, Chancellor Robinson.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for your interest in our strategic pillars and the fact that we're now with the third and final pillar discussion for the academic year. I think you see that we have progress being made, but there's still so much more to do. And this research excellence pillar, there is a lot of interest across the campus in how we're going to manage the landscape relative to research in this environment and what our plans are for moving forward. I know that we've talked and shared with the Board of Trustees that one of our goals is to reach higher by getting our expenditure number up to $500 million. Now, we won't do that next year. I just get your expectations under control. But we're going to develop the plan to move progressively towards a much more robust expenditure and as part of our expression of research excellence, not all of it, but just part of it, because we realize that it's not just all about expenditures. The humanities matter. Yes, I'm a historian and proud of it. And it's important for us to produce research that affects all of our society in positive ways. So I've said enough. I think the panel is going to get started. Margaret, I believe, is the first panelist to do a brief overview and then to be followed by the others. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chancellor. Good afternoon, everyone. Really excited to be here to talk about where we've been since we announced 150 Forward, where we're going, and then also where we are. And I will also then turn it over to Dean Pohl and then on to Provost Martin. So as a quick reminder, where we began, the research excellence pillar, our aspirations are to attain a deep and lasting reputation for high quality education and research outputs. We also seek to align our research with societal impact and the economy across the region, the state, and the nation, including commercialization, workforce training, and other economic and cultural development that advances all of Arkansas. And we have a lot of progress we've made in those areas. Just want to give a shout out again to iCubeDAR, Dr. Jung, opening of the building just last week, really fabulous advancement in our research capabilities on campus. Also want to remind you that the third part of that pillar was really talking about the foundations. And if you've been listening to some of the other forums, employer of choice, student success, you heard a lot about foundation. Class and that project is a foundation of employer of choice, focusing on retention and graduation rates. That's a foundation of student success. In the very same way, research administration efforts are a foundation of our success. We have to be able to move the work. We have to be able to put faculty first and help them manage their grants from the moment of kind of creation of idea into a proposal and onto funding and right on through to close out. And there are a lot of moving parts in there. And so where we've been since we announced research excellence on this pillar is building a strong foundation for campus. So many great developments, and what I really see is collaboration across campus from units coming together to help us have the capabilities that we need to achieve the goal that the Chancellor just talked about, doubling research expenditures over the next stretch to achieve being a $500 million institution. And so in the last year, we've spent some time reorganizing and expanding how we view our research enterprise here. And this is just an example of how we are organized today. We have research administration, which really houses Office of Sponsored Programs, campus services, contracting. Research compliance is highlighted there because it's destined to become part of research administration. As every PI knows, before that funding unlocks, you better have your COI in, your IRB approval, maybe your IACUC protocol, research security, check, check, check. If you don't get that done, you are not probably going to get your funds in the time frame you want them. So housing that group in research administration will help us achieve that strong foundation that we seek. We also have started a research security office. That's a federal requirement. We're very fortunate to have, again, the partnership of campus. I'm incredibly proud of this campus and its federal researchers who stepped up last fall. We put everybody through required NSF modules. And while there was some grumbling, this campus got it done. And that helps increase our reputation with our federal funders for taking seriously research security. Many of you are familiar with the Provost's office, fine work around Smith Group and how we use space on campus. Smith Group recommendation that we've operationalized is having a research infrastructure and technology office that reports to me. Thrilled to announce, and you've seen that Newswire, I hope, that Ian Zarneski is embedded with DRI. That's a great credit to Steve Krogel and Ann Bordelon in allowing us to see a way of matrixed organizations where we are able to bring research technology into the DRI conversation, as well as research infrastructure management, which the Smith Group has highlighted for us as something that really needs attention for that strong foundation. We have to optimize the way we use our research space on campus, and this office is in place to help us do that. And of course, Tech Ventures has moved over into research and innovation. Thrilled to have that team closer to the PIs, closer to where I like to think the action is in terms of what's coming out of our labs, how do we capture that, how do we commercialize it, and then license it back out. So that's a little bit about where we've been and where we've been spending some effort over the last year. As I said, research infrastructure supported by Smith Group. Thanks to people like Cynthia Sides and others, we're bringing iLab and technology functions to the research space so that we can make core facilities more easily available to our researchers. They can see where they can get services on campus. And we can also use those as service centers that generate fees that support the research infrastructure. Research security, I mentioned, is a big topic nationally, and it's one that we take very seriously. It involves not only conflict of interest, but also cybersecurity, as well as physical security. But if we take research security seriously, if we do it well, our researchers have an opportunity for more advanced federal research, and that's the goal there. So let's talk about the substance. So that's kind of where we've been. We've been a lot of other places. It's been a lot of fun. I love my job, and I love the people I work with and this campus and their ability to get things done. But one of the things we've talked about is what's the future? Where are we going? And one of the things that I keep hearing is what is our narrative? Like, what are we about? Well, we're a comprehensive research university. You heard the Chancellor just say this, and I can say this maybe as a law professor. All disciplines matter. We're a comprehensive research university, and as a baseline, if you're a faculty member here, you have the opportunity to do your research and really excel at that. At the same time, we have to focus on areas where we've made critical mass and investments over the last probably 20 years when it comes to the two topics I'm going to show you. The first is materials. Many of you know for quite some time, materials has been seen as a strength of the University of Arkansas. It's a broad framing of materials. I'm going to fast forward and then go back to this slide. For those of you who are like, what is materials? What does that mean? It means a lot of things to a lot of people in a lot of disciplines, but it is very important to federal funders across a broad array of agencies. And so it makes strategic sense for us to tell our research story through the priority of materials. And that's really looking at the basic structure, properties, and behavior of materials. That could be everything from nanomaterial all the way through to how does wood behave in different designs, how does steel behave in different configurations. So materials includes the UA Power Group, Nano Institute, CREC, I-CUBE-DAR, architecture, and many others. Health is the other big substantive way that we can tell our story. Of course, at the top of that list, again, is I-CUBE-DAR and how they're thinking about integrative health, well health. We also have AMRIC, focused on metabolic research, their maternal health, bioengineering, agriculture, food and nutrition, design and built environment. So much of our research as a land-grant university is about how can we make sure that we have healthy populations that are thriving, and there are so many researchers that are involved in that work. So when we think about where are we going and in the future, what might you hear on campus or what might you read, you might hear more of our story told through the lens of materials and health. And in addition, the humanities and the social sciences. No land-grant university, no flagship is complete without acknowledging the importance of these fields to our ability to advance the pillar itself. How do we better society? And so just a couple on the list there. Architecture, some of you may know, the U.S. State Department has awarded to Faye Jones the ability to lead the U.S. Pavilion at the Venice Architecture Biennale. That is an amazing acknowledgement of their ability to work with others, Crystal Bridges, the Guggenheim, but also just an acknowledgement of their creativity and their proposal to highlight the role of the porch as a design element that resonates here in this part of the country as a way for people to have powerful conversations as they go about their life sitting on their porch when it's not scorching hot, maybe in August. But also supply chain and logistics, Walton College of Business doing amazing work there, ranked programs, excellent research emerging, and the School of Art and all that it brings us on campus. So don't want to forget that that is an important element, and I know sometimes on campus people can feel as if research excellence does not include them in telling the story, and so you'll see increasing efforts there. And of course, again, the research excellence pillar talks a lot in the second component about, does our research have impact? Is it changing lives? And so we have a number of activities ongoing in the upcoming year, partnerships with the Division of Advancement to make sure that a cohort of Arkansas Research Alliance impact grant recipients, of which we have many on campus, these researchers who are partnered with industry on campus, can we manage that group as a cohort and make sure that we're reaching out to the industry partners to let them know we're interested in their perspective on how we can work, how they can work with us long-term beyond the life of the grant. Workforce is something we hear a lot about, entrepreneurship, small business support. Those are all outgrowths of our research excellence, and they are equally important in telling our story going forward. Two themes I want to introduce people to as well is what are some of the foundations of the future of substantive research. We often hear about AI. You may have noticed increasing stories being told about researchers using AI, and I think you can all expect applied AI will go across all disciplines and how we use it to not only accelerate research, but also to create new understanding. Of course, data science is also critical across so many disciplines, and that will also be an important part of what you will hear in the upcoming years, and hopefully we'll be able to garner a lot of funding by telling our story better. But I said I would end by addressing where we are. And where we are is there are executive orders, there is a lot of federal funding headlines that you may hear, and so, yes, an active period with many moving parts. The approach my office has taken is, and with the partnership of the Provost's office and academic units, is we approach each announcement to identify the impacts and the specifics, right? A headline that says, all grants canceled. We have to look beyond that headline and say, what's the impact on our campus? What's the actual correspondence from the federal agency? What does it mean? And how do we work those facts to the advantage of this university? And so we really do delve into what does this actually mean? And then we try to maximize what we can in terms of benefit or approach to preserve our research portfolio. And so the other thing that I've tried to say that I think is important, and I ask all of you to do the same, is for many of our researchers, it can feel like a scary time because there is a lot of uncertainty. Every day there are open notices of funding opportunity at the federal level. We want to continue to pursue funding opportunities where we can. And we want to also look at new sources, whether that is industry, whether that is foundation. What are the opportunities? Because research isn't going away. We may have some challenges. We may see a reframing of how research is funded, but it's not going away. So let's be smart about how we tackle the uncertainty. And FNA's future has been one of those headlines. 2 agencies have announced a 15% cap. Both of those agencies have experienced lawsuits in federal district court which have enjoined those from going into effect. But I wanted to share some information before I pass the baton to Dean Pohl. So we are predicting and planning for changes to the federal funding model that relate to indirect costs. I wanted everybody to understand that the history of the FNA critique reaches back to 2016 and earlier. This is not something that just happened in January of 2025. There has been a longstanding critique that IDCs do not have enough specificity around them, the methodology to arrive at them, and that is leading to some waste in the system or some lack of accountability. Those things may all be true. The bottom line is there's a critique of FNA, and we see headlines, and again, we are preparing for that by modeling different rates and outcomes. It's also an opportunity for us to reassess assumptions about federal support for research generally. Very fortunate to have a terrific group of national colleagues that convene, seems like weekly these days, to discuss what we're hearing and seeing and to plan to have a united voice in the conversation about the future of FNA. And one thing that may happen is research infrastructure costs may shift to more direct funding models, where in the past we may have bought equipment with IDCs. In the future, we may have a federal grant program that allows us to buy that equipment, and that's how the equipment is acquired. Whether there's a cost share associated with that, we don't know. But I don't want people to feel as if all is dark. We have to look out into the future and know we're a strong research university. We've built incredible strength over the last decade, and the next decade will be just as rich and just as rewarding, I hope, for our researchers. So very excited to be here today, and I'll turn it over to you, Dean Pohl.
Thank you, Margaret. So the graduate school plays an important role in helping facilitate the research pillar. Graduate students are critical to advancing the university's research enterprise. GSIE, the Graduate School of International Education, helps recruit top-notch graduate and international students to the U of A and facilitates that impactful research and scholarship through assistantships, fellowships, grants, and interdisciplinary collaboration. This is a slide that shows the number of students in our graduate degree programs. You see we've been on an increase over the last 3 years. We're just roughly a little over 4,050 graduate students enrolled in graduate programs. And the number of degrees awarded, we awarded a record number of graduate degrees in 2024, awarded over 2,050 degrees. An important component of our graduate enrollment is our international students, and you can see we've been on a steady increase since 2021 in terms of the number of international graduate students enrolled here at the university. And this is just to give you a little perspective on where those students are coming from, with the main places being India, Bangladesh, and Nigeria. The graduate students provide research support to many of our faculty, primarily through our doctoral programs. And up here, I've got a list of the top doctoral programs here. Our cell and molecular biology program has over 80 doctoral students, occupational therapy, 71, electrical engineering, psychology, and physics fall just a little bit behind there. So you can see we have some very large doctoral programs here, and amongst a variety of colleges, not just in the STEM area. Our master's programs, most of our largest master's programs are what I'll call professional practice or professional practice-oriented programs, the largest being in the business school and the operations management program. When we talk about recruiting graduate students, one of the challenges we have is we need to be competitive with our peers. And part of that involves creating competitive stipends for our graduate students. This last year, as a result of the class comp study, we raised our graduate student stipends by 10%, and we plan to raise them by another 10% this next coming year. But I'll tell you, we're still behind, even when we raise them 10% and 10%. So working with the Provost and the Chancellor, we're going to continue to work to try and make us more competitive with our peers in terms of being able to recruit top graduate students. This just gives you a breakout of the roles that those graduate assistants are playing. We have almost 700 graduate research assistants where their main function is to support research. We have just a little over 900 that are supporting the teaching mission, and then we have a small number that help with some of the administrative tasks associated with student affairs and other organizations on campus. I'm happy to report, when we looked at the data from fall of 2024, the majority of our GAs are above the minimum, which is good. And we need to continue to look at ways to increase that so we stay competitive. Probably one of the biggest items that helps us recruit high-achieving students here to the University of Arkansas are our Distinguished Doctoral Fellowships and Doctoral Academy Fellowships. We administer these nationally competitive fellowships, which were established back in 2002 through a gift from the Walton Family Charitable Support Foundation. These help us attract highly qualified graduate students to the University of Arkansas to help conduct research and creative activity and to drive economic development and improve the quality of life for our Arkansans and across the country and world. Currently, we have 259 total fellows on campus. 83 of them are doctoral fellows, and 176 are doctoral academy fellows. In addition to that, we have the graduate school has a program where we provide research and travel grants. We provide approximately 550 grants totaling more than $650,000 each year to support graduate students going out to present their work at conferences around the country, as well as help them support some of their research if they need to travel to support their research. I'm going to take you through just a few examples of some of the things that our students are doing to change lives as a result of their research. So I'll start with Thomas McKeon. Thomas is a material science and engineering doctoral student. He came to the U of A as a U of A Doctoral Academy Fellow. He's developing innovative membrane technologies that's aimed at removing a toxin produced by harmful algal blooms in Lake Fayetteville that has restricted swimming there for years. Jesse Bonilla, a doctoral student from Panama who's studying in the Environmental Dynamics program, is studying the effects of climate change on her home country. Her work led her to be chosen as a member of the roster of experts for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Ravindu Pereira, a fourth-year doctoral student in the Cell and Molecular Biology program, is researching mitigation and vaccination techniques to help deal with a bacterial infection for chickens that has significant economic impact on the poultry industry and can affect food safety and meat quality. And finally, we have 3 alumni from the university's Masters in Fine Arts program in Creative Writing and Translation, Maisa Hashad, Elizabeth Muscari, and Hiba Tahir. They recently received Artist 360 Awards from the Mid-American Arts Alliance to advance their work promoting women's voices locally and around the world. I'm going to pass it off to Provost Martin.
I want to talk a little bit about the strengths and some of the importance of our publications. Before I do, I want to say that, we talk about research, but we have to keep in mind that research is education. It's educating our students at the master's and doctoral level. Sometimes we think about student success, we think about our undergraduates, but our research is what fuels the education at the graduate level. So that's a big piece of what we do here in our education. Looking at a few of our focus areas, which Margaret's talked about some of those as well as Ed, but materials is a big strength of our campus, of our research focus in semiconductors, the power electronics, cybersecurity, CREC, I-DAR, architecture, defense, logistics, and supply chain. But if I back up just a minute and talk about semiconductors, there's a long history there. This started back in the 80s, 70s actually, late 70s, and in the 80s when HIDEC, the High Density Electronics Center, was established through Dr. Bill Brown, who was the professor in electrical engineering, and his research, he had a proposal that was being put together because we were an EPSCoR state. Opportunity came that Senator Bumpers had an opportunity to help with some funding to establish HIDEC. So I'm saying this to say we are now really in our second generation. Dr. Alan Mantooth, which is a big part of our semiconductor, and I'll talk some more about it in a minute, he went through some of those programs. So we're on the second generation in some of these areas. It takes some time to really build some strong credibility in these areas. And this is an example of where our campus has done that very well. Health is another area of our research focus, as well as our humanities and social sciences in the arts and architecture and supply chain. Some of the things that we do, as Margaret mentioned, is the applied research. We have crucial areas for the real world challenges, the applied research that we're trying to do. Some of the things in the sustainable agricultural area that they're working on in farming practices for our food security. The advanced materials I mentioned a little bit, but with the music, some of the things in the physics, chemistry, innovative design in the coming in the architecture. It's coming down in the Anthony Timberland Center. I-DAR that's just opened. The grand challenges that we've heard Renew talk about so many times. But these are applied research, and if you looked at the things, the opening, the gentleman, I can't remember, Herschel, I think is his first name, with the artificial hand was there. It's pretty neat. Had a few conversations with him to see some of the applied research that we're doing. AMRIC, the anabolic, the Arkansas Integrative Metabolic Research Center. It's doing some great things with in the areas of applied the Nanoscience and Institution, CREC. If you haven't been to CREC, seems like people like to destroy things in civil engineering, but they have a tremendous facility there, and I appreciate them looking at what it takes to destroy something, because when I drive across a bridge, I want to feel like it's safe, or if I go up into a 40 or 50-story building, I want to know that the steel, the structure, the things that they're doing there, they've tested. They know what the structure is of it. So they do some great things there at CREC and applied areas. Okay, there, I get the right one. There we go. The campus as a whole, this came out in a report not long ago, earlier this spring, of how we've invested $136 million of our own resources. That's the campus's resources. This is not the donations or the gifts. This is the side that the University of Arkansas has put into the I-cubed-R, the multi-user silicon carbide, Anthony Timberland Center, CREC, Biology Greenhouse Edition, and the Nano Clean Room. All of those investments that we have made with campus funds is $136 million. That's since 2021. Some of the things that we do, interdisciplinary research centers, we talked about those. Some of these are listed that you saw over on the clusters and things that we do. But these are some areas of interdisciplinary. Some of these are programs. Some of these are just the center they're starting. But the data science works with 3 different colleges: engineering, arts and science, business school, Walton College of Business. Material science and engineering has been around for a while. Greg Salamo was instrumental in getting that program started with some grants, hiring graduate students. Pepsi, or is a Pepco, is an NSF center that he got grants to hire graduate students to fund them to start those programs, and it's been a successful programs. Cell and molecular biology, saw Ed talk about the number of PhD graduates there. It's the largest. It's a multidisciplinary research center. Environmental dynamics is one of our newer programs that's starting as well. When we look at supporting our U of A researchers, and one of the things that we have to do is in our hiring practices. We've got to be strategic in attracting the top talent, and we need additional faculty. But in our strategic hiring, one of the things that we have to look at is we have to look at where our strengths are at. We have to maybe say, okay, there's someone here that's really rising. We need to consider hiring somebody to help put more than one person in that area. Or maybe we have 2 or 3 and we need to add a 4th. We need to take a look at what it's going to take to get that critical mass to really make that center, that research area grow. So we need to be strategic in just looking at where we hire it. Another thing that we do so often is when someone retires, we will typically hire a replacement at an assistant professor level. But we need to be considering to hire somebody at at an associate level that already has an established research program. It takes 5, 6, 7 years many times for our assistant professors to get up to become established. But we can hire some people as an associate professor to complement maybe someone else. Or even better, we've done this in the past, we may hire some distinguished professors. I think we have a couple of those here. Renew and Jimmy came to us at the distinguished level. So hiring practices, we need to look at how we do that and not just say, okay, it's automatic, we're going to replace them with another assistant professor. But we can do those things in being strategic and trying to gather the top researchers that we can. But we are going to have to add additional faculty over time in the tenure track. That's where the research is primarily conducted in that level. We're going to have to add some additional faculty. And that will be down the road in how we do that, but that's going to be essential to doing that. We need to be supporting our faculty and looking at ways that we can recognize and get our faculty recognition. You can't always put yourself up for an award. We need people that are nominating people for other awards. And there are some people around this campus that are very good at writing those nominations, and I think we need to be more cognizant of the people that we have. We have a great faculty, and we need to be putting them out there because that recognition attracts more students, it attracts more faculty. It's going to help us grow the research part of the campus, which remember, I said, is education. It's not just to grow the dollar amount, to pat ourselves on the back. We're educating students, and that's an important part of it. And we need to encourage our faculty in trying to achieve those recognitions for which they've achieved. Publications is important as far as publishing in some of the top journals. We need to be looking at how we can publish in the top tier journals, and it increases the reputation. It helps develop our faculty, and it also increases the opportunities for research funding. So we need to take a look at how we publish and where we publish. It's not just in the STEM areas. We have other areas that we need to publish. There are people that publish highly impactful journal articles in areas that are not in the STEM areas. We have some great faculty, great research that's going on, and not necessarily with high dollars of research, external research funding, but it is impactful in their areas, and that is important for us to increase the publications that we have. Also, another area of in publications is there's a new area that's coming of the ones where online open access, open source. I know my technical society, Industrial Electronics of IEEE, we have 3 open access journals, and I think that's all of the technical disciplines are looking at the open access. It is not all of the traditional are not going away, but I think we have to be able to publish and look at all areas of where we're at today. So, Margaret?
Okay, great. Thanks, Provost. I hope what you got from our panel is how multifaceted research excellence is, from the actual research enterprise and how we're bringing in grants and funding and supporting PIs and growing PIs to graduate students, to the strategies that come behind faculty, not only hiring but their support, whether it's awards or helping them expand their view of publication. It really is a multifaceted topic, and I think it is also absolutely a core value of a land-grant university like the University of Arkansas. So what you can look forward to before we get to Q&A, let me just wrap up by saying that everybody that is on the DRI team, I think they wake up to live and breathe continuous improvement for our research enterprise, professionalize, modernize, put our faculty first in supporting their productivity. We also, as you've heard, I think from all of our presentations, we think about strategic building to be competitive, to be a world-class research university, but stay focused on how we provide that education and how we make improvement for our society, whether that's here in Fayetteville, whether it's across the state or across the nation. And as we are reaching higher, as we are striving to increase research expenditures, graduate enrollment, publication rates, know that it's all informed by what I just said. There's value to this work. It's why it's a strategic pillar. We're not just heading for a number or wanting a certain publication rate or number of graduate students because that's a pat on the back. It is because there's purpose behind it. And as we reach higher, I think you also got a flavor, and if you're reading headlines, a flavor of the fact that we will face challenges. That's nothing new, probably. You know, that is life. We will face those challenges, but we'll meet them, and we'll do that to create new opportunities for our university, for our students, for our researchers. And so I think even though the headlines can sometimes point otherwise, the University of Arkansas is in a good place for its research enterprise and its continued growth and excellence. So with that, I think we can move to our questions and answers. Maybe our questions, and we'll see if they're answers.
Thank you for that progress update. We do have some questions submitted by campus ahead of today's meeting. Number one, can we combine researchers in UADA, the Division of Agriculture, who are also faculty for University of Arkansas classes under one umbrella, again, for efficiency and effective business process?
The UADA is a separate business entity. It's a separate entity under the U of A system. I can say that over probably the last 2-3 years, we've had the best relationships. We do have an MOU that we signed with them. I think we're about to update it. But we have ways in which the faculty in the division can get tenure, a lot that was not available prior to the MOU. So we're working very closely with UADA to make a much improved operation the way we interact together.
Great, thank you. The university set a record for research conducted in the last reporting period, which was FY23, and is making a significant, or has made significant investments into applied research facilities. But with so many changes regarding funding from federal agencies this year, is there any concern that the pace of the university's research growth may be impacted?
What a great question, and I hope I previewed my answer in my remarks today, which is every university is concerned about the pace of growth, but every university is operating in the same context. One of the things that I'm thankful for here at the university is we actually have the research excellence pillar. This has been top of mind for us, so if we are continuing to build methodically and strategically, we will emerge as competitively strong. And so, you know, you can't answer the question of what does it all mean. You can only wake up every day to do the work and take it one step at a time, but with a focus on research excellence, and I think we will be okay.
Good to hear. So a little bit more specifically, how is the University of Arkansas addressing challenges posed by federal restrictions on grant submissions, such as limited submission policies or changes in funding guidelines during the federal administration transition, and what strategies are being implemented to ensure researchers can continue to pursue impactful projects?
Great question, and let's unpack that. Sure, there have been programs in which funding opportunity notices have been taken down. Study sections may not have been held. Different programs may be being modified. For example, NSF announced new priorities of its funding portfolio last week. But that's not to say that there aren't NOFOs that are posted and that there aren't future opportunities for funding. And so I think it's important that we remember that there's still many funding opportunities that are open, and we give very practical advice to PIs. Make sure you read the NOFO carefully. We said that before some of these changes, and we'll say it every time, because a responsive proposal is a winning proposal. And so you have to read carefully what the federal government is looking at. But let me go beyond just what the federal government is asking for and say one of the great groups that I feel we work with in DRI is our Associate Deans of Research. And through the Provost's office and Anya Zaitchek's work, we often get to be with the Council of Chairs. And what we want to provide is an environment in which PIs, especially those who are early career and may see some of the funding that they anticipated coming shifting, that they have support in rethinking and rejiggering where they might be heading with their research, and that we don't instill a sense of hopelessness in them, but we sit down and have the real conversations with them about how do you recalibrate if a particular program that you thought would have funding is not there. Well, what's next? How can we encourage you to talk to colleagues nationally and see how other people are thinking through these challenges? So this goes back maybe to my closing remarks, Mark, about if we can be strategic, if we can be deliberate and focused on research excellence, then I think our researchers, who we believe are excellent, can continue to thrive. But there are changing conditions, so we need to make space to acknowledge that as well.
Thank you. And we do have a few minutes, which is a luxury we haven't had in some of our other progress updates. So if there are questions here, we have the opportunity to answer them. Our distinguished panel is open to those questions. I'll come to you for the benefit of our recording audience later to make sure they can hear the question.
Julie Olson, Senior Director of Corporate and Foundation Relations and Advancement. One of the topics that wasn't really discussed today is external research communications. As we try to navigate this challenging federal landscape, we're already seeing that faculty are coming to us to look at private and corporate foundation support. And while those are certainly opportunities that we need to pursue, more and more high net worth individuals who are creating foundations are choosing to use donor advised funds and other avenues for seeking funding opportunities, including not having invited proposal requests. Organizations like the Science Philanthropy Alliance are ones that are boutique companies, I'll say, who are helping foundations navigate these opportunities, are looking to see what they look at universities and at faculty based on the communications that we're sharing externally. So can you talk a little bit about what resources we're planning to commit to expand our research communications so that we can take advantage of those opportunities?
Thanks, Julie, and thanks also for perspective about the work that you do and how you try to connect our researchers to funding sources beyond federal funds. Mark, I feel like that might also be a question for you in some respects, but the bottom line is that I think under Randy Massinelli's leadership, along with Mark Rushing, Andy Albertson, and team, that there are a great number of people who think about how to tell the research story. So you heard me talk about materials and health and how we tell our story as a university. We are also increasingly trying to make sure that our communications, the daily things that may be announced, whether that's through a press release or through a newswire, have some strategic value to them. And so we increasingly try to read stories for, is the societal impact there in the first few lines? So somebody who's reading quickly and may have a number of different options can see very quickly the value of our work. Beyond that, I think, Julie, it's really important to send the message to PIs in units to work with their local communicators about what stories need to be told about their work. And certainly if you're aware of have an opportunity, but not a lot of storytelling around them, reach out to me, reach out to Andy or Mark or through a communicator to make sure that we can tell that story through short takes, through podcasts, through other things, and let's be strategic about it.
Yes, working on impact and connecting the dots. Who does our research impact? How does our research impact them? That is definitely the focus of all that we do, but we can do better as a campus than we're doing for sure at connecting those dots. Other questions? I should have stayed up there.
Steps in. Oh. Hi, Jimmy Abbas from iCubeDAR in biomedical engineering. And I wanted to ask about the situation with state and state investment, state funding, opportunities for various or maybe new and innovative ways of getting state investment. And I can still consider myself relatively new to Arkansas. I don't know a lot about the history of the state and the state investment in the university, but my sense is I have lived in and worked in other states and other state universities in which there was a lot more opportunity for that. And I'm curious if there's anything that is on the horizon or anything that is possible, given I think what I've seen is a strong effort at the state level by the governor to change, to introduce some changes in things. But are there any ways that the university and especially our research enterprise might be able to benefit from that?
Great question, Jimmy, and I'll take a first pass, but invite the provost and, of course, the dean to also speak to it. I want to highlight some successes, and I also want to give a shout out to Rebecca Haley of Government Relations, who works in a number of ways to help secure funding for us at the state level. And so, for example, I would highlight some funding that just came in for 2 researchers in COHAP on smokeless tobacco and vaping, where the state has a commitment to trying to solve some issues that are real for our youth around those 2 topics, and they sought out our campus because of its knowledge of Arkansas and how to design good studies that might give meaningful results. Similarly, as I think many people know, a lot of our state activity is also coordinated by the Arkansas Research Alliance, which is a 501c3, but does provide a powerful voice for us in across the state, whether it is the University of Arkansas system, UAMS, our campus, ULR, or a state. There is always a concerted effort to garner more investment in research and economic development, with the understanding that our research, as we've discussed today, often drives economic development that improves the whole state. I don't think, from my perspective, that there are clear answers about, is there a long-term strategy that involves X number of dollars? I would say that very effective advocacy by a number of people has brought that issue to the forefront of how do we help Arkansas thrive. Part of that is through investment in research and economic development. But welcome your thoughts.
You're right. We would always love more input from the state. The state has contributed to the facilities that we have, that I mentioned, the $136 million that we have. I didn't mention any of the external support from the state for, I think, the Anthony Timberland's Center, the High Deck, and I'm not sure, I don't have all those numbers in front. I know those.
Music, $7.3 million for music is a significant contribution from the state. Yeah.
But Arkansas is a small state in comparison to a lot of others, but we do appreciate all the support that we've received. But yes, we are constantly looking at ways in which we can provide opportunities for the state to invest in the University of Arkansas, in higher ed, and the research engine as well. So,
I guess from the graduate school perspective, the recent governor's bill on educational access, where they're trying to get dual credit for students who are seniors in high school from the community college, will bring those students here with a lot of credit already, which will enable us to maybe build out some of our 4+1 programs and get those students engaged in research to support our researchers and PIs earlier in their careers, and incentivize them to stay for 1 year to get that master's degree, and maybe we can turn more of those into PhD students.
Any final questions? All right, if not, I'll turn it over to Chancellor Robinson to close us out.
Thanks, Mark. Let's give our panel a round of applause. Again, thank you for your interest in the university and your work to make the university better. As you can see, we're working hard to improve every aspect of our operation and to make sure we're serving the state of Arkansas to the best of our abilities. This has been recorded, and so I think you have an opportunity to go back over it and look and learn. I've asked for all the slide decks because I want to go back and look and learn as well, because each one I get information that I think might be useful moving forward. So thank you, and go out and have a great day. Go Hogs. Thank you.